Hello, everyone.
How's it going?
Good. It's been a great week. How about you?
It's been an amazing, fun, challenging, always interesting, joyful week. It's been good so far. What's today? Today is Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yep. And I just wanted to say to everybody, hello, and thank you for joining us. If you are out there and you have questions, we're going to be doing a little Q&A tonight as an experiment to see, what's happening out there. If people have questions or would like to make comments, we will. I'm going to be posting the link to join us. If you would like to go live, you can click the link and go live with us to ask a question or two, and then we'll allow however many people we can, um, considering our time, and then we're just going to go for it. So we still don't have a name.
We have ideas.
We have ideas. What was the one I came up with earlier?
I don't know. Should we reveal it? Could be the one.
Well, I don't know.
But it's a big step from last week where we had no idea. So at least we have an idea.
I think that we should reveal that it's an acronym, and we'll leave it at that.
Oh.
It's such a secret for all of our millions of followers.
See, what they don't really understand is that we don't ever have a goal of having a name. We just want to tease it every single week.
That's how we attract viewers.
That's right.
To see whether or not they're going to reveal the name.
Yeah. Yeah, but I kind of just blew it. I just revealed that we have no idea what we're doing. So there you go.
Whatever. We'll come up with one. The topic this week is self-trust. Woo! That's kind of like mind expanding.
There's a lot there.
There's a lot there. Two little words, and it goes in all kinds of directions. So we're going to see if we can tackle it from an experiential, not from a expert point of view, because that's what we only have is our experience. We don't like to profess that we are experts at anything. I certainly am not.
Well, I'm an expert at my own experience. I've said that before.
Is that a what's that? What's it called? A hyperbole? No, that's called a dichotomy. That's called what is that?
Paradox? I don't know.
Paradox.
The greatest things are paradoxes.
I'm only an expert at me.
What's that?
I'm only an expert at me.
Yeah, right. And that's true.
Oh,
although if I'm an expert at me, it does give me a glimpse into other people because we're all pretty much the same in my experience.
Pretty much. Some people will oppose that because they think that we're all different. However, from my experience, our differences makes us the same, because if everybody's different, that makes us the same.
Right.
That's a moron or something like that, isn't it?
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, so self-trust. I mean, we exchanged a little bit back and forth, Greg and I, and we thought, well, let's just go with self-trust. And I certainly have an experience of self-trust. I also have an experience of not trusting myself over the years. And what I've come to realize is that it has to be earned. Self-trust has to be earned. It's not something that we can read a book or listen to some motivational speaker, or whatever. It's we've got to earn it. Self-trust. I mean, what do you think?
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's like so many things. I don't realize I have it until I have it. Well, let me put it a different way. I don't realize, I don't know what it is until I have it. It's like health. I don't know what really being healthy is until I'm healthy. I don't know what being awake is until I'm awake. I'm sleeping, and there's no way I know I'm awake until I'm awake.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent most of my life having no idea that I didn't trust myself until I learned how to trust myself.
Yeah, it's interesting, So it's like I mean, trust is a big word. We all know what that means. Is that mean we feel confident, not in just our own ability or our own decision making or our own inner wisdom. It's about seeing that in other people. And what I've learned and experienced is that what is most important to me is whether or not I trust myself. I don't have to worry so much about you because you're on the same journey working at trusting yourself. And I think that, as I go about my daily life, I think that most people don't think about it that often. I think that what happens is that when they don't know that working on self trust is even available or even something to work on, that they end up suffering the consequences, which is exactly what happened to me many, many years ago. And then until I began to become aware of, wait a minute, I mean, I can actually work on myself. There's a path for me, but I didn't even know that a path existed.
Mm-hmm.
My ability to handle the challenges in my life, um, staying true to my values, um, and not relying on external validation, like trusting myself and knowing that I was doing the right thing for me. I'm on the path and I'm on the journey. I don't have to judge myself. I can just keep walking and then doing the things that I know to do to maintain that experience of trusting myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
I mean, you're talking about it. My mind is going in like a million different directions of where this conversation can go. And, I think starting with one thing is my experience of myself is that when I don't trust myself, I have a really difficult time trusting and seeing others clearly. And that I'll be a lot more likely to project onto other people, look for other people, like you were saying, looking for other people's validation, for me to feel okay about myself, looking for more of a community to validate who I am or anything. And and as I've worked on trusting myself, it's like the paradox, to keep rolling with that sub theme, is that the more that I trust myself, the more that my back feels against the wall in a lot of ways. Because it's like I'm the only one. I feel like, not all the time, and I've worked on myself to a point where I'm okay with somebody challenging me. I'm okay with somebody telling me that's not okay. And I'm a lot less inclined to allow their opinion to shift my trust in myself or shift my reality. And that can be, it's a double-edged sword, and it can be tricky in the sense that I don't want to like turn off if somebody's having an experience of me and they share it with me. I don't want to be so naive to think that, okay, well, their experience is completely wrong, and I have to take it in as input, as a perspective. It's a little piece of information. And then at the end of the day, it's on me to really trust myself what's right. Not because this person said I should do it this way. Okay, they have that perspective, and I want to show up what's going to be best for me in my life. And that can be hard. And sometimes my experience is that the more that I work on myself, the less people really relate to where I'm at in my life, because I'm less interested in playing the games, the societal games that have been put onto me.
mm-hmm.
And through that, people well, what are you doing? What do you mean you didn't go to college? What do you mean? Da, 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 right? No, that's not my path. And that's okay with me.
Interesting. The thing that I also realized is that, or have realized, is that self trust, my self trust comes and goes depending on um, what I'm working on. So if I let myself, for a better word, slide, so like sometimes I'll take a vacation and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to drink beer and, let myself, you know, get a little crazy. During that time, I noticed, I mean, when I do let myself go, I give myself permission to have some beers and drink and whatever and get a little crazy. And then by the time my vacation is over, I've noticed that I've lost a little bit of that trust that I had while I was sort of like, on the wagon. And I
Mm,
like being on the wagon better than I like being off the wagon because the 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 personal power that I get from it. Like you did that hard 75. Well, it was more like hard what?
well, 75 hard. That's what it's called.
75 hard, right. But then you went how many days?
75.
Oh, I
I mean,
bet
there were some other things around it that I did um, that were leading up to it. But yeah, as far as the actual, I went for 75 days, and then yeah, I continued some things beyond it.
you.
Not everything, but I think your point is, and I relate to that. I mean, because that was like no alcohol, two workouts a day, 45-minute, 2 or 45-minute workouts, 10 pages of reading in a self development book every day, a gallon of water. Um, following, I chose keto as my diet.
Uh-huh.
That was the first thing I threw away. I'm like, I'm never good doing keto again.
See, I love keto. I'm not 100% keto. However, I'm like 95%. I'll like a couple of days ago, Diane and I decided to make a sandwich on this small little Italian roll. It was only like two inches by 2 inches. So half of that, right? So
Yeah,
we went off the wagon for a few for lunchtime. But mostly we're on it, and it's great. I enjoy it.
yeah,
I mean, that leads to that we have to build our self trust. It's not like something that you can just plug in like a phone, and get recharged. No, it has to be something that we are building, like setting a goal, following through. I think that's the key. The follow through is the key, and all the work that I've done, and all the courses that I've taught, and all the experiences that I've had. I can set goals till they ooze out of my ears, and I can have pages full in my journal and all this stuff. And unless I'm following through,
hmm
that self trust is not. It just doesn't happen.
that's right. In fact, my experience is that if I set goals and then don't follow through on them, I trust myself less.
Yeah.
And so that it can be, particularly if this is a new thing I'm working on in my life, it can be a double-edged sword where, like, I remember when I started practicing keeping my word and setting goals and, um, from a space that I had very little experience doing it. What I found is that it was very easy for me. Like, let's say I had an agreement to, I don't know, whatever, exercise 30 minutes a day, and then I don't do it. Well, without experience, without building long-term trust in myself, it was so easy for me to, well, what the hell is wrong with you, Greg? This little voice kicks in. Like, I can't believe you said you were going to do it and then you didn't do it. You're an idiot. Like, you're never going to figure it out. Like, we all know that. I'm very familiar with that voice in my head. And so then I let that voice, yeah, you know what? I did say I was going to do it and I didn't. So why would I trust myself?
Hmm.
And then it opens up this whole space for me to say, fuck it. Why set a goal anyway? I'm not going to do it. And also, when I do it, all of a sudden I get this like this little notch, this little like beliefs ticks up tiny bit. Hey, I said I was going to do it. And then I did it. That's pretty cool.
And the confidence. That's confidence, isn't it?
Yeah.
That little boost. Like, I trust myself now that I will do it. We've all heard this thing about new normal. So, I mean, we're all on social media, not all, but some of us are on social media. Well, we're on social media right now. So it's like someone, here's my example. So I have gone through spurts where I'm not exercising and I'm not exercising. And then a month goes by and I haven't exercised. That hasn't happened for a while. However, I've been through that. And then that is my normal. So to all of a sudden start exercising every single day is difficult until I start to exercise every day. And that becomes my new normal. And then to not exercise becomes very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So consistency is really important. So when I used to teach my course, the achievement seminar, I would talk about this thing about exercising, making agreements where you set a date very simply, and then you make a plan, and then you begin on that date, and then you begin to do it. So that's what I used to do. I used to set myself up and then set my date, and then I would begin to do it. And in the beginning, it was very difficult. I didn't want to do it. I was like tying my shoes, and I was like, I don't want to do this. Why did I make this stupid agreement? But then a couple of days later, now I'm into it. Everything is great. I'm back up on that wave of feeling good about myself, confident. I can rely on myself. If I say I'm going to do it, I know I'm going to do it. So, I mean, that's it in a nutshell. And it's not just with exercise. It's with help me out, food, relationship,
Reading. Yeah, you mentioned diet. It could be prayer, it could be meditation, it could be whatever, right? Like that's
my environment, my house, my bedroom,
yeah.
hanging my clothes up.
It could also be not doing things, right? It could be not drinking. It could be not raising my voice.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. It's whatever. We choose your own adventure. Well, how do you want to live your life?
Exactly. I mean, we talked about this, I think, I don't know if we talked about this yet, but my little tool that I love is my wheel of life. So there's all these different areas, and these are not all the different areas of life. However, when you want to improve areas of your life, including money, which everybody seems to have issues with.
Not everybody.
Not everybody. Some people. I shouldn't use those words. But health. You want to improve areas of. We want to improve areas of our life. We have to intentionally select an area that we're going to work on. Make a plan, set a date, and then go for it. That's what I learned, and it worked.
So let me ask you, Dominic. I feel like everybody wants to do that. Everybody wants to be healthier. Everybody wants more money. Everybody wants to be able to set a goal and follow through. So what is the difference? And especially let's think about it from the perspective of I'm just getting started on this journey of waking up and learning self-trust, so that if I say I'm going to do something like a 75 hard program, I trust myself that I can do it. So what is the very beginning where, let's say that I've spent my whole life lying to myself, not believing myself that I'm going to do it. And I set a goal, and every single time I've set a goal to do it, I break it. And I'm in that space of, I don't trust myself. So fuck it. I don't want to try. Like, And then I find what, for whatever reason, okay, now I want to do it. What's the difference going to be between somebody doing it that time or not doing it again? Do you think? Are there tools to help, or what's your take on that?
Well, I think so. What I learned a while back was that the more I educated myself on whatever it is that I wanted to do, so like I've done keto. I just mentioned that, and so before I knew anything about keto, all I would read were these conflicting, oh well, that's not the best thing in the world. Well, this you should try this, and blah blah blah. And so I started to I went to YouTube, and I'm like, okay, keto, what's keto? And then I watched probably I got addicted, probably like 50 different videos on what that meant. And then I began to realize that most of the things that I was doing were not getting myself into ketosis and burning fat. I was burning sugar. So it was the education that I had to get my mind set. That's my answer right there. My mindset into motion so that when I saw a piece of bread, it was like, no. Or when I saw fruit, no. When I saw an avocado, yes. You know what I mean? So it was educating myself, getting my brain back into that understanding, that knowledge, so I could make conscious choices about what to do and not trip myself up.
That makes a lot of sense. And I relate to that. I feel like if the more I know, what do they say? Knowing is half the battle, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of truth to that. And my experience of myself is that sometimes knowing isn't enough. Like, I think I talked about this maybe the first or second week. This thing about sugar, and it's in the book Why Buddhism is True. I think it's why Buddhism is real, why Buddhism is true. But ultimately, how in our like hunter and gathering states, we would go out and look for berries. And if we saw this beautiful red fruit and we ate it, the sugar was a signal to our brain that this is good. And in today's world, with that information, they've basically purified that into refined sugar. So it's like, it's like injecting the good stuff right into your veins.
Mm-hmm.
The brain in its primitive form doesn't understand that it's bad. In its cognitive reality, of course it knows refined sugar is bad. It's bad for the liver. It's bad for all these things. So people get addicted. So in some way, like, you're right. I think I'm not discrediting what you're saying. I also think there's a different layer to this where some people intellectually, conceptually, at every level know smoking is bad for me. Sugar is bad for me. And I can't stop doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So at that level, and one thing that's really worked for me, and I've done this pretty significantly, I want to shout out my friend Nate Brost. I'm going to shout him out so now he has an excuse to watch this. We have been accountability buddies on and off for the past two years, where we get together every week and we set intentions, and then we set goals. We set daily agreements, daily goals, and weekly goals. And then we support each other. And it's about supporting each other and doing what we said we're going to do. And sometimes for me in my life, now when I'm in that, like, when I'm in the zone, like when I did my 75 hard, I had no accountability buddies. I was just like, I'm in, I trust myself, I'm doing this, whatever. I was in a space where I really built to a level where I felt like I could do that. And there's times in my life where I don't trust myself as much, and having some support, accountability with somebody can really be useful. Have you had that experience, Dominic?
Oh, I have. Absolutely. I mean, I think that in the beginning, to have accountability, to have somebody to report to, or to have, some kind, like you were doing the daily video. You'd go live, you were walking down the street, and then you'd share some insights that you had. And I knew that while you were doing that, you were okay, yeah, that's your TikTok. So for those of you who want to view that, you can go to Greg's TikTok at Nords Nor 0114. You can see it right there on by his name. But you were like using that that video that you were doing as your ground. When we do push-ups, we have to push against something
Mm-hmm.
like the ground, and the ground stays solid, and we move up and down. That was your support.
Yes, that's a well
So
said. That's absolutely true. I was using, it's like, okay, here I am putting it out there to the whole world. I'm doing this for 75 days. Now, how many people really cared? Probably not many, if any.
I knew
Right.
what you were going through. I understood.
And that was me putting my ass on the line.
Right.
Because if I say I'm going to do it and then I flake out 40 days into it, now anybody who's been watching me, that what a loser. He didn't even complete it.
I think that most people cheer on. I think I was cheering you on. Like, I got this feeling that once you were into it, you were in.
Oh yeah.
And I think that that's what happens naturally, is that we, until we take that first step and we begin to, do it, after a few 3 or 4 or 5 days a week, it's like, no, we're not going to blow it. We're not going to blow it. We're going to continue to do it. And it's like, even if we did, and I have gone through that, you've broken some, I'm sure, agreements before, and you probably beat yourself up, and I'm a loser, and I suck, and oh my God. And the conversation is, can you just chill the fuck out and be kind to yourself and start over, get back up, forgive yourself, whatever it takes, and then, continue on, because, self-compassion, mistakes are okay.
That's it. And I was talking about that earlier, and I'm glad you brought that up again, because I want to close the loop on my thought on it, which is there's that short term, like as I'm learning, as I'm starting to set these agreements, I realized so much would make or break on whether I did it or not did it. And if I didn't do it, the next thing I know, I found myself in Fucketsville. And
I like that.
for doing it for 2.5+ decades, I've gained a higher level of trust in myself. It's like, so I used to be a meteorologist, and I'm going to get a little nerdy here, but in weather, you have these long waves, which is like the jet stream. And then so I could be in a trough in a long wave, right?
Mm-hmm.
But within that wave here, there's also these oscillations happening.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've learned is that to trust the long wave over the short wave oscillations. And when it's new to me, all I have are these short wave oscillations.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's like, oh my God, I'm in a trough. Oh my God, I'm in a high. Oh my God, I'm in a trough. Oh my God, I'm in a high. Okay. Well, now that I have observations and data over 26 years, I can see that part of my life cycle is that I have ups and I have downs. and that I don't have to get so attached to my highs and I don't have to get so attached to my lows. And I can just let myself be and trust that if I'm in a low, I'll find my way back to a high. And I don't have to um, pin my whole life on whether or not I kept one agreement or not, whether or not I said I was going to do it or not do it. It's like I can laugh about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so attached to the result because I get it that I'm all in the trajectory of my entire life. I'm all in on this game of working on myself. And so that way I've seen my trajectory over 2.5 decades climb its way up.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when I hit a low, it's like, this is fine because I know I'll be right back in a high. And I use those highs to really push myself so that the next low isn't quite as low. And then it gets a little higher and so on and so forth. And that's like the macro of trusting myself.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing, this is me, right? This is very personal to me, but I think this is going to be personal to a lot of people. And that is like having a relationship and also trust in God. That when I open myself up to that, there is a higher consciousness that wants great things for me. And that gives me like, I don't have to put so much on myself. And I realize it's like, I can let go a little bit and that God is going to illuminate this path. And that what I've learned with that perspective is when I look back on my life, the things that I thought were the worst things that could ever happen to me were actually some of the greatest things that could ever happen to me.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. When you were talking about the whole cycle thing,
Yeah.
right? It reminded me, excuse me, we all know the stock market, and we know how there are constant, ups and downs. But for the most part, not always, but for the most part, that thing is always going up. But as it's going up, it's going like, you know, up like this. So those ups and downs, I've used what do they call financial advisors before? And they're all like, "Oh, just don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. It's going to continue to go up." And and I used to freak out. Oh my God, I just lost $30. But then over a year, it was like, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's kind of like how it is. So when we're in the muck, and when we're in the daily grind of waking up and doing the exercise, and whatever it is we're working on, we don't see the gradual incline. We're like experiencing this thing going up,
Mm-hmm.
which is a perfect analogy. And I think that one of the things that I've had to remember for myself is that I'm worth it. I'm worth it. I'm the most important person in my life, and if I want to experience my own, I don't know if this is a cliche, but my own greatness, my own self-worth, if I want to increase my self-confidence, my self-trust, whatever you want to call it, I've got to do the work. I've got to build it. I've got to go to the gym. I've got to exercise those muscles.
Mm-hmm.
And all these little things that we're talking about, it does take that. We just can't sit on the couch and read a book and think that I can just automatically trust myself. I think that that's a much longer process to intellectually learn to trust myself than it is to do the physical stuff. To actually do it, it's more of a direct, quick, straight line, directly to where we want to be. And when we get on that, whatever you want to call it, that high, then we have to maintain it if we want to stay there. And that's, as human beings, we have that choice. We can either get off the ride, or we can stay on it. And we can choose. Well, if we get off the ride, what are we going to risk? How we're going to risk losing that inner feeling of self trust, self confidence, self esteem. No matter what you want to call it, um, and it does gradually fade away if I get off that wagon.
Mhm.
And then next thing I know, a couple months down the road, maybe not, maybe it's 6 months down the road, who knows? And then all of a sudden I find myself, I used to feel so good and now I just don't. So then it's like, okay, do I have the cognitive awareness? Do I have the self awareness to say, okay, it's time to get back on the ride and
Yeah,
go
I
for it.
I think my experience of my own spiritual path and growth path, and read this in a book, Shambhala, amazing book.
Yeah, I've got it.
And one of the things they talk about is getting back on the horse.
The sacred
And
path of the warrior.
what a book. So good. And it's not I think one a misconception I had about people who get to a certain place in their life where they trust themselves and start creating the life they really want for themselves is that what maybe I didn't see is the number of times they fell off the horse and had that make or break moment of, do I have it in me to do this again? Can I find that like, that overriding, no, like I want to see the best version of myself.
Hmm.
I don't want to throw in the towel to mediocrity or worse. I want to find that greatness. And even though that horse just threw you off, kicked you in the face, took a crap on you, it takes some guts. Dust yourself off, adjust your chaps, your boots, get back on that sucker and ride it. And I'm at a point in my life where that's the only game I want to play is being on the horse. And so when I fall off the horse, it used to be that I would be off the horse for a year, 6 months, maybe longer. Oh, I suck. I hate myself. I'm in this world. I never do it again. And then thank God I would find this like, I'm getting back on this horse. And then inevitably the same thing would happen. And again, it's sort of that shortwave, long wave thing. I get it now that staying off the horse is not doing me any service. It's like life happens when I'm on the horse. And so like that mental overcoming of like, I've seen myself fall off the horse and get back on the horse so many times in my life now that I trust myself so that when I fall off, I know I'm getting back on. There's no I'm staying here forever anymore.
Or there's the thinking that we're on the horse when we're not really on the horse.
Delusion.
Yeah, the illusion. Do we have enough self awareness to like be the observer to say, "Hey, Dominic, excuse me, but I don't know if you see it or not or recognize it, but you are not on the horse."
Yeah. Well, we talked about that last week. That's a big part of it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, you mentioned last week we were talking about meditation, mindful meditation, and that certainly has helped me. That's one of the tools that I've used to keep myself observing from an objective perspective. Like I think that other people would probably say that I've been easier on myself than I should have been. because I mean, I would let myself slide. I remember a long time ago, I made this agreement, and I was working on my health. And so the agreement was to not drink imported beer because I really enjoyed imported beer. And everybody was, when they heard about it, like, what the hell difference does it make if it's imported or domestic? I was like, I don't know, but it sounded good.
That's
Oh,
funny.
that is stupid. That's how dumb I am. Oh my God.
You could sit there and drink a 24 pack of Bud Light, but
But to have,
one sip of a Heineken and
that's it. That's it. Stupid mentality, man. Anyway, I think that, yeah, becoming an observer has been really helpful to, to watch myself and to be objective, to say, hey, Dominic, you're not really on the wagon right now. You better, and then it's like, okay, so I think the thing that has worked for me more than anything else is it's like to look at the calendar throughout the year and then say, okay, I'm on vacation for this long, and then I'm on the wagon for this long, and then I'm on vacation for this long, and I'm on the wagon for this long. You know what I mean? And then give myself permission to just have a free for all, go for it, and then get back on the wagon. It's really worked for me. So,
yeah, I think you're right. I mean, and the thing about doing it, I assume the way you're describing it is it's a conscious thing. When you're like I think you described that when you're vacation, it's like, okay, this week I'm giving myself permission. So you're still honoring your word. That's the key there, right?
it is.
Like if you were to say, no, this is a vacation where I still want to maintain my agreements. And then you get there and you say, fuck it, I'm going to like go nuts with this tequila and all this imported beer. Then you lose that trust because there is your word. There's what you said you were going to do. And then you do something else. So there's this incongruency that exists. And that's what creates, in my experience, that's what creates the mistrust in myself.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say, and it's interesting, like even biblically, in the beginning, there was the word. Creation comes from the word. And so through my speaking, through my thinking, which aligns with my speaking, when I trust myself, my words become like lasers. That what I say is what is. And that's it. And there's no wiggle room because I trust myself, so then my word has merit. And then on top of my incorporating mindfulness meditation to pay attention to the words that I'm saying and that I'm speaking, it becomes this like synergy of intention and words and action. And then suddenly, or not suddenly, over time, as those things fuse together, it becomes this laser beam that just carves my reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I can say something and I know it's already done. My belief level increases when I say something. And it takes practice and it takes discipline. And, I think it's interesting. I hear about these like Buddhist retreats and things where you have a monk and their job is to like sharpen a pencil at noon every single day.
I've heard that story.
And, what does it matter? Who cares if this pencil is sharpened or not? What implications does that have in the world? What implications does that have on someone? And I think that exercise is about it's about getting through that. What does it matter? All of that judgment about it, to just say it doesn't matter. What I said is that I was going to do it at noon. And that's it. So can I set it up in my life so that at noon I'm sharpening a pencil, regardless of all these judgments I might have about it, regardless of how insignificant I think it might be, because the result is that by doing it every single day, in spite of all those thoughts, I learn how to trust myself. I learn that my words have power. I learn that I don't have to be attached to end results. I don't have to do like, and that was a big thing for me during my 75 hard. It's so easy. Like the thing that motivated me as I saw this dude who did a 75 hard and I saw his before and after. I'm like, I want that. Like that dude is jacked. And then as I got into it, it was so interesting because by like day 30, I saw almost no results. And I had to start. And I think this is why a lot of people, in my experience, quit on diets, they quit on exercise, they quit on all these things because I can be so, what's that?
Relationships.
Oh, yeah. I can be so attached to the end result that it's like, well, I don't have the thing that I want, so fuck it. Not knowing that the real value comes from honoring myself in the process, experiencing all that doubt. Like almost every single day, I sat down to do my inside exercise. This voice would be like, oh, not today. I'm tired today. And then I'll get into the exercise. Oh, the hard part's coming up. I don't think you're ready for the hard part. It's going to hurt today, and there was always this thing looking for a reason to not do it. And it's just about, no, that's it. Like that's part of the deal is that this thing is going to be here telling me, don't worry about it. And I can do it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Just keep pushing on.
Yeah. And so then I become so much less attached to these thoughts and momentary feelings, and then I have real trust in myself.
Mm-hmm. Well, like those exercise programs, I've got a couple of apps that I use, and I use those during the wintertime because here in Chicago, as is in Wisconsin, it's cold. There's lots of snow on the ground and it's freezing, and I can't ride my bike and I can't play tennis unless I join a club. And I do these exercises on my big screen TV from this app, and they're doing these things where you bend forward and crawl out from the and that's like it's intense, right? All abs, all legs, all butt, all everything, all arms, shoulders. It's like that's the hard one. And you're saying the hard one's coming up.
Yeah.
My conversation is, oh, I'm just not gonna do it all the way.
And it's that's a staying present thing, because and that was the game, because I could in that moment I could be aware, oh, the hard part's coming up. Well, Greg, you're not in the hard part. You're in this part. So just do this part.
Right.
And then the mind would go, oh, but the next part. Okay, fine. Do this part. Oh, but the next. Okay, fine. Do this part. Do this part. Now. And when I'm anchored in the present moment, it's so much simpler. The mind wants to go forward. The mind wants to go backwards. And when I'm present, it's like I can always do the thing now when I'm present.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy and interesting. It's fun. And, going back to what we talked about last week, I think that for me, it's been when I make a choice that I'm going to do something, whether it's with the work that I'm doing around the house or, cleaning, because I do a lot of cleaning. I do the laundry. I do everything around here, or in my relationship with my wife, or with money. I look at the big picture where I think, okay, so who got myself into this situation? Who's responsible? Who has the ability to respond to, all these different incoming thoughts like, well, I'm going to put my clothes away, but then I'm in a hurry and I just take them off and fling them in the corner. And then as I'm walking out the door, I'm like, son of a bitch, I turn around. and
That
going,
that one hits close to home.
you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, all too
Pick
well.
them up. That's the what's the book you referenced?
Power of Now?
No, Warrior.
Oh, Shambhala.
Shambhala, the spiritual path of the warrior. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Going back and just taking the clothes, put them in the hamper, and then and then laughing like, you idiot.
Yeah.
Well, I know there's a lot of people like that, but we have to be responsible because we get ourselves into that situation. And it gets down to, do I trust myself enough to do what I say that I'm going to do, Um, and owning the life that I've chosen. Oops, I lost you, Greg, for a second. You went blue. You're
I'm
back.
here.
You're back. I think that what I've learned is that I have to own my life, because I'm getting myself into all the different situations that I'm in, and I'm choosing the thoughts that I have. So I need to own all of that. Like, it's not happening to me from the outside. If I want to be healthy, I need to do what I know to do to be healthy. If I don't know what to do, I need to educate myself. So, and then just simply take control, because I want to be the kind of a person that's in control of my life. That's all there is to it. And
Yeah.
that voice that you're talking about that's in there, it doesn't go away. People are like, oh, I'm going to use my meditation to silence the voice. But I've meditated for many years. The voice doesn't go away.
It doesn't go away.
It doesn't go away. It's like, well, who's in charge of it? Is it in charge of you, or am I? Oh, is that in charge? Is my brain, my thoughts, the voice in charge of me, or am I in charge of the
Yep.
voice? Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, um, looking at the time, so I just wanted to do two more things before we wrap this up, and one of it is to look at what are the advantages and disadvantages of self-trust. But before we do that, let's do our little Q&A. There's a couple of people watching. So if you're watching, if you have comments or questions, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to copy and paste this link onto my profile. So if you're watching or listening and you have a comment or a question, and if you want to go live with us, that means that you click on the link and there would be you, me, and Greg on the same screen at the same time. So I'll do that right now. And if not, you can type it into the uh, comments section of my profile, and it'll show up on my screen. So I just posted it. It's app.blive 542/guest. You'll see it. If you have a question, you can type it into that comments, and it shows up here on my screen. Now, Ginger has been on watching. Hello, Ginger.
Hi, Ginger.
And she's made some comments here. I think most people, let me put it up here on the screen. I think most people, can you read that? It's kind of small.
Most people don't experience a lack of true self. Mostly it's a knee-jerk response. Trust seems on autopilot.
There's some truth to that. I mean, it's like hoping and when wishing and waiting that maybe one of these days I'll trust myself enough to quit smoking, or I'll trust myself enough to go for that job, or I trust myself enough to, I don't know, find a relationship, trust myself enough to, like that. And if we leave it up to autopilot,
It's not going to happen.
it's not going to happen. I mean, we're going to wait into eternity, and then it's going to be too late. So that's a great comment. Thank you for that, Ginger. What else did she say here? She made several comments. Excuse me. Having confidence for the unexpected. Having confidence for the unexpected. I don't quite understand what you mean by that. What do you think that means, Greg?
I'm not sure that I understand that
Oh,
either.
you know what? Actually, I do understand that because we were talking about making choices, and if we don't have the self trust, then when things come up, unexpected things come up, if we don't have that confidence or self trust in ourselves, that's when things go off the rails.
Mm,
When we build that in ourselves, when something comes up, we get a flat tire or
yeah,
is
that actually is pretty profound. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's like I can set all the intentions in the world, and then I have to be willing to understand that sometimes things aren't going to play out exactly how I want them. So then how do I respond, right? And I think again, the longer that I exist on this planet, the more I realize I have all the ability to set all the intention. I have all the ability to speak my goals. I have all the ability, and sometimes I need to adapt to the unexpected. That's just the smart thing to do.
Mhm. Totally
Interesting.
get it.
That's there's a lot to sink your mind into there.
I know. Do you see Lisa's comment?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
This is Wisconsin homegrown spotted cow.
She's off topic, which doesn't surprise me one bit. Oh, that's funny, Lisa. You're right. Oh my God, what kind of beer? But you didn't ask what kind of beer I was drinking. Man, I feel left out.
It must have been the golden color. I don't know.
Well, mine's a hazy,
Yeah.
unfiltered Voodoo Ranger. That's great. Okay, so thank you, Lisa, for that question. We'll hold it against you later. She's awesome. She's awesome. She's a an AT&T friend from back in the day. We had a good time together. Okay, so um, self trust, advantages, pitfalls, or disadvantages, whatever you want to call them. What do you think are some of the advantages of working on creating more higher levels of self trust? What do we get out of it?
I
What's the
get I get to create the life I really want to live.
That's it. That's the bottom line.
That's it. I get to honor myself. I get to honor my true self. I get to be who I want. I get to be the sculptor of my life. You know, I talked a little bit last week about being director, actor, producer, writer of my own life. That's what it is. When I trust myself, I can step into any role and step into it with confidence, and I can experiment with my life. You know, like having this vision of myself of what would it be like to really go for it with
Mhm.
my health, not just a diet, not just exercise. What would it be like to put it all together? Um, and I want to say one more thing on it too. I really want to highlight something you said earlier, and I picked up on it, but it's like my I think, and this can be viewed as one of the detriments potentially is sometimes I'm going to have my back against the wall and people aren't going to understand me. And I had an experience where ultimately, um, and this is a pretty difficult testimony for me in terms of something I went through in my life, but I'm here to be vulnerable and share. Um, I had a pretty tumultuous breakup with the mother of my daughter to the extent where I wasn't sure how much I was going to be able to see my daughter. And so one of the things I had to do, even though I promised myself, right? And this is, I think, to Ginger's point, having confidence in the unexpected. I had to step up to a place where I was willing to go to court. And I told myself I would never do that. And then I got to a point where I realized I have to do this. And so I had family members, the people closest to me in my life, questioning my motives, questioning why I'm doing this and why am I putting this poor woman through this and all these different things. And in my heart of hearts and in my personal experience, my connection with God, my back was against the wall to all these people. Yet I knew in my heart of hearts, I trusted myself enough to know that I was doing the right thing. And at other times in my life, it would have been so easy to say, you know what, I need to think about this. You're right. I am kind of being mean here. I am kind of pushing something. And what I've found is that when I do something with a pure loving intention, which in this case it was to get my daughter in my life because my daughter needs a father, not just a mother.
Mm-hmm.
So I was willing to fight for it and do whatever it took. And then nurturing that with love several months later, now her mother and I have this wonderful co-parenting relationship. And she thanked me. She's like, if you hadn't taken me to court, I would have never woken up. I would have never seen how I was controlling and whatever. So it's like this ultimate validation of what would have happened if I didn't trust myself.
Your
Not
daughter.
only would I have given up this opportunity to be in my daughter's life, to be her father, the way that I want to show up in my life as her father, I would be angry at her mother and I would have all this bitterness. And that's like one of the most powerful testimonies in my life of really leaning into myself, even when the world is against me. So it can be perceived as a negative. Well, nobody gets me. Everybody thinks I'm weird. Everybody thinks I'm doing the wrong thing. Well, I want to, I'll give it over to you here, Dominic, but I posted this on my Facebook the other day, and I think it's such an appropriate quote to our topic tonight from one of my all-time favorite books. I have a quote on the wall back here too, Atlas Shrugged. Your mind is the only judge of truth. And if others dissent from your verdict, reality is the court of final appeal. And I had all these people dissenting to what I thought was true. And the way it played out, well, reality validated every decision I made.
Interesting.
So what's your experience? What are the pros and what are the cons for you?
Well, I like what you said. I mean, it's a great example. I mean, for me, when I have that self trust feeling inside my body, for me to make choices is real quick, real easy. They come fast. I don't have a lot of self doubt. I'm not second guessing myself because I know what I want. I know the goal that I want, and I know where I'm at on the path, and I have built up this this self, whatever you want to call it, trust, reliance, esteem, you know. And so I instinctually can make choices based on, if very quickly, no, I'm not going there, I'm going over here, that's where I'm going. And that has helped me immensely. And I see this in people a lot of times. I don't know what to do. And I know they don't say it like that, but
Some of them do.
I'm mocking. And you're right, some of them do. They're lost. They have no clue, and it's because they don't know what's available to them. And so that's been, like one of the my purposes for a long time. And the other thing is resiliency. So if something happens in my life, all of a sudden the car breaks down, or this, I get a message, or somebody's ill in the hospital, I don't crumble. I don't freak out. I have an inner strength where I can hold it all, and I don't break. I can bend. I can flex. I can go with the flow. Um, the opportunities that come up, whether they're great opportunities or not, I feel stronger to tackle them if they're like in terms of making money. I don't always take all the opportunities, but when I when I can take an opportunity, I feel, powerful. I don't like, okay, I don't know if I can do this. I'm not strong enough or whatever. My relationships work. I'm happy. I'm playful. I mean, that's probably my biggest thing. I enjoy being a playful kind of a person, and no matter what comes up, I can crack a joke. I can say, "Oh, well, this is going to be a really far out trip," or whatever. And then, even though it's hard, I can chuckle along the way. So there's, less anxiety, all that. So I
Oh,
had, I think I told you, I've told you, but I don't know if I told the audience about 2 months, 3 months ago, I fell. You can't see it, but I bent these one, two, three fingers backwards, and these three fingers were like this. They don't go this way, okay? But I bent them backwards. And when it initially happened, I was in excruciating pain. And then once I got my act together, kind of came in the house. I was outside. I came in the house, got my ice, and I'm sitting there with my ice pack on my hand, and I started laughing. And I was like, the next process is about to begin.
oh man.
And I
No,
started laughing. I was like, wow, how are you laughing? You're crazy.
it's the best medicine, and I think that could be a whole topic in a show. Having a sense of humor and how it's really like the most powerful tool for transcending ourselves. Stop taking myself so seriously. It's not worth it.
It's totally not worth it. Okay, so let's go to the flip side. Pitfalls, disadvantages. So we don't have self-trust. What is the ugh, the icky side of not having that, or not building it, and not even knowing that it's possible to do it? What do people go through? What's been your experience?
Jeez, what did I go through? Years of depression,
We don't have that much time.
self-loathing, not creating the results of my life I want.
Self-loathing. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I hated myself. I mean, what if I don't trust myself, then what am I? I'm a little paper in the wind getting blown around by the weather of the day, or the thought about me that somebody's having. Then I'm at the whim of, oh, this person thinks I'm this, so I must be this. Ooh, right? If I don't have that trust in myself, then I don't have something to overcome that. I don't have like the power to expand beyond. And the more trust I get, like the less what people say to me matters. So I think that's it. Is that a tree?
It's the big V. Victim mode. Victim
Oh
mentality.
yeah, right.
You fall down into the precipice of
100%.
mortality.
It's so easy to fall into that space when I don't trust myself, because if I don't trust myself, I certainly can't trust anything else. And so then I'm grasping at anything to find to find identity, to find meaning. I'll look anywhere. Drugs,
Yeah.
other people's opinions,
Oh yeah.
alcohol, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. We'll revert to the lowest denominator. We'll not only crawl into the manhole, we'll crawl in and we'll put the cover over the top of our head. And
Sitting in shit.
yeah, scum. and and enjoying it.
Yeah. Oh, I deserve this.
Sucks.
And I've been there.
I have been there.
And that's why I can laugh at it.
I think that there are a lot of people out there that are in there right now, And it's unfortunate, and because I think that people don't know that they don't have to be there. It's like the door is open and all you have to do is walk through. And I know that sounds easy. However, if you don't know that the door is open, or if you don't know that you have the key in your pocket, what do you do? Here we
Well,
go.
I think this is
Lisa's got us comment here real quick. I just had a traumatic experience. One of my girls was in a horrific accident on a motorcycle. This is horrific.
wow.
Uh, I was first on site. Whoops, that's the wrong one. I was first on site. Your conversation is helping me. Yeah, this is tragic. And let's just make it serious for a second, because we can laugh and joke and all that stuff. But when something serious like that happens, what do? I think that when someone does not have that inner strength, they crumble in situations like that. I've been there. I have crumbled. It hasn't happened for a while, but I have crumbled. But when I have this inner strength, I can take action, make quick decisions, and do the things that are right in the moment. Like you were talking about your dad the other day when he was going through his thing, and it was like boom, boom, boom. You knew exactly what to do.
Mhm.
And when we've all known people that don't have that inner strength, and they're calling, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, that's first of all, I'm really sorry to hear that. That's intense. And I think what you're saying holds so much weight, Dominic, because I remember like being on the way to the emergency room and playing out in my mind, what am I going to do? What am I going to say? How am I going to respond? And then having this other overriding mechanism saying, doesn't matter. Trust yourself, stay present. You'll know exactly what to do. And then getting there and just like holding my dad's hand and saying a prayer and just creating the space for him to be loved in that moment felt right. And I didn't have to figure it out. So I think you're right. It's like, by being present, trusting my intuition, not letting my mind get ahead of myself, trying to create outcomes. Um, I can lean into real trust in those moments.
Yeah. So I think that there's a big lesson there, that we don't know when a challenging situation is going to happen. And if we haven't done that inner work, it's very easy to fall apart, or it's easier to fall apart when we have done that work to make ourselves strong and trust ourselves, and do all the things that we were talking about, following through to make ourselves strong. And I think that that's one of the lessons that I've learned, is that if I want to be there to help people, and if I'm weak, especially emotionally weak, who can I help? I could make up some nice words to say, but am I going to take charge of the situation? And Lisa, I assume that you did take charge of the situation, and I hope that your friend is okay. I ride too. I understand. I freak out sometimes when there's crazy drivers out there, and I know it's a joy to ride. At the same time, there's a risk. And I'm one of those people. Some people are going to hate me. I do not wear a helmet. And people say, "Are you out of your mind?" I am out of my mind. Why? Because that helmet, I can only see this much, and I have to turn my head, and I can never see. But when I don't have a helmet on, and I don't ride on the highway, I'm not one of those kind of bike riders. I'm a kind of suburban. cornfield kind of a guy. And when I need to see, I can just turn my head and I can see. It looks like my 360 radar is on. So anyway, Lisa, I hope that she's okay. Give us a report when you can.
Yeah, sending you love and trust in yourself. I think we're wrapping this up, but I want to share one last thing.
Yeah.
And this is just like practical tips, things that have worked for me, maybe to the viewer who wants to start that exercise of building trust in themselves, getting to that place. And what does that look like? And I alluded to it earlier. I would recommend you set something to do every day. Something very, 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 very simple. Something that your mind will, when you hear it, it doesn't go, oh, that sounds hard. Maybe it's reading, like if you have this goal of reading a book, well, maybe you set it up so that you read 1 page a day and then do it no matter what. And then when you have that idea, well, maybe not today, just do it. And my experience is that 1 page, because I said I would do it and then I did it, I start to build a little trust in myself. Now, if I say I want to do 2 pages, I have a little trust to say I'll do 2 pages. And I think that's a really practical way, a takeaway perhaps from this podcast for somebody to start practicing. And I'd love, if somebody does that, come tune in next week. Let us know how it goes. Reach out on my Facebook if you want support. I'll support you. I'm all about helping people on the journey of finding trust for themselves and waking up. That's why I'm here. So that's the last thing I wanted to share, but I think it's very profound if somebody actually follows through on that.
Same for me. I mean, I only can talk about my experience and where I've been successful and where I've not been so successful. So anyway, thank you all. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Dominic. Thank you, everybody.
We'll see you next week, huh? Same time, same
I'll
place.
be here.
Tuesday night. All right. From all of us here to all of you there, stay happy. Have fun. Talk to you soon.
Adieu.